Hey, what's up, Seth?
Hey, Jay.
Man, we've been wanting to do this for a while.
Yeah.
I'm excited that you sat down with me today. I kind of selfishly wanted a little bit more clarity on what you do and your approach. And also, I'm sure a lot of people would benefit from hearing that as well, just getting some additional clarity, just to pick your brain on some of these cool topics, because I know you and I have a lot of philosophical questions or conversations that we go through all the time.
Oh,
And if we've
yeah.
had a lot of this recorded, we probably would have some fantastic content. So why not do it at the round table? So I appreciate you coming in.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to dive in.
Nice. So for a living, I like to help people rewire patterns of movement to build strength and resilience. And I know that you like to help people rewire patterns that are kind of holding them back. I hear you say a lot. I help you identify those patterns. That way that you can deal with them and you can get out of the way of your own self. Can you explain that a little bit, if you don't mind?
Yeah, sure. Um, if I started kind of from where it all starts, we're born into the world. Well, this is how I hold it. This isn't like a truth of the world. Let me put that in there. But yeah, so we're born into the world, and in the beginning, we're really showing up as our true self. We don't really have a conception about who we're supposed to be. All we know is who we are, and just expressing that into the world. As we start to get a little bit older, still when we're like, I don't know, a toddler, a little bit older than that, we start to get feedback from the world about who we're supposed to be in the world. Our parents give us feedback probably first. Your dad might say something like, "Hey, you need to be smarter than that," or even you might need to be less of something like, "Hey, stop showing up so powerfully. You might be hurting somebody else if you do it that way." So they kind of have built-in rules themselves and patterns that they're ready and willing to give you those to kind of protect you from the world because they've learned to do it that way. And so to them, it's like, I'm going to help this kid do things right because I've been through it all. But what they can't see is they're kind of dictating to the child like who they're supposed to be and how they're supposed to show up. And when you're that little, you don't really know any better. You don't have a sense of identity. So when someone like a father figure tells you to do something or to change the way you're being, you really take that to heart. It's like, oh, I do have to change this. And so, yeah, as that kind of continues onward, it's like you start to make decisions about who you're supposed to be, and then you get really good at it and you practice it and you hone it because some of it's really useful stuff. Like if you're getting really smart and just being good at everything, that can be a powerful thing and that can take you a lot of places. The issue comes when you've practiced these things throughout your life and you get really good at them, you kind of, without realizing it, slowly start to narrow your ability to be with things in the world. It's like, I know how to run this pattern, and this is kind of the thing that I use to bring success and to keep myself away from the things that I fear.
So almost like a default state.
Totally. Yeah, that's an awesome catch. It's like the problem isn't the pattern itself, it's more that it's the default and we can't see that it's the default.
It's a good point, which leads me great into the first question. So in your work, how do you help someone not just change their behaviors, but also to change their identity? Because now you're dealing with patterns that are a part of a person's identity.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, it's super tough because our identity is it's one of the things we hold the most strongly, the most concretely. It's kind of like we hang a lot on our identity, if you will. And it's the thing we practice throughout our life. It's like this is how it's always been. This is who I am. So, in order to shift that kind of stuff, our conceptions about who we are and these patterns that we run, it's not easy. A lot of times what it takes is seeing that there's a lot available that's on the other side of the pattern. Like if you're trying to be the smartest in the room all the time, if we use that one real quick, there might be a fallout where it's hard for you to connect with people because you're so busy making sure that you're smarter than everyone else that they can't really relate to you. Like there's no inroad there for them to be able to connect and get into a relationship with you. And so someone like that to be able to drop being the smartest all the time is super difficult because they've probably got most of their success in their life from driving that forward. It's like maybe they become a big time lawyer or something where intelligence is key. But then when they can, usually at some point in your life, you'll start to realize that your patterns kind of fall out somewhere. Like the person trying to be smart all the time is going to be like, hey, I'm a little bit lonely and I notice I don't really get close to that many people. And so with that realization, that's kind of like seeing what's available outside of the pattern and the beauty that could be created there. That's a lot of times where we generate the power to be able to make the shift.
That makes a lot of sense. So do you believe that the body stores patterns that the mind isn't ready to face?
Totally. Yeah, it's there's a thing in this work where it's like understanding is only step one. Understanding your patterns actually doesn't get you that far. It's like what'll happen is it'll be a cool insight and you'll be like, oh, that's super neat. And then your ego, whose job I would say is to keep you safe, like kind of keep you doing the things you've always been doing. That's sort of like its job. It'll take that insight and it'll tuck it somewhere nice and safe so that you can go and keep showing up in the world the exact same way with that insight now somewhere that's like tagging along.
Yeah, that makes sense too. Yeah, for sure. So in training, we have something that I call threshold moments or the edge of ability, where I take a client and I get them to where discomfort sort of meets growth, right? Where they're getting pushed right to the edge, but not further. So what in your field is the psychological equivalent of the threshold training and transformative work?
I love that. That's so when we talk about like how tough it is to shift a pattern, that's where we eventually get to is the breakdown, where it's like, it's something like we've been talking about this pattern for a while so they can see it. They're like, oh, I'm trying to be the smartest in the room every single time. And what that's doing is driving a lot of disconnection for me. And they've been out in the world kind of like seeing that in the moment. It's like, oh, here it is again. And here it is again. And so then eventually you're kind of left at this place where it's like your ego has nowhere left to hide. You can't hide into that thing anymore. It's like you're now coming to a decision where it's like, do I want this thing to still run my life? Usually the answer is no, but getting past that rock bottom, like that moment is definitely
So you
key.
definitely believe that rock bottom is a key to awareness in general, right?
Yeah,
Some type of circumstance that draws that out. Because as
totally.
long as it's giving me success by any standards that I want to call success, it doesn't really matter that I understand there's some patterns there. What will make me want to change that is some type of circumstance that draws it out, or there's where I have to fix this or else. Do
Yeah.
you agree with that, or
Yeah, it's both sides. It's like the promise of possibility, like what my life could really be like if this pattern wasn't automatic and running the game the whole time. But also there is some rock bottom there. It's like having to be with all of the less than ideal circumstances that come from relying on just a narrow pattern and just seeing like where that's falling out over and over again. So it's a little bit like the carrot and the stick.
That makes sense. There's a lot of clients that come in and we may be working on one thing, but I'll see something that may need to be enhanced or improved or whatever. And instead of just saying, hey, like you really suck at this thing, I would never do that. But instead of saying anything remotely close to that, I put them in a situation that forces that deficiency to come forth. And then quickly, usually they understand, okay, I was not able to achieve this thing or do this thing like I feel like I could do this thing. So do you use exercises and techniques to get a person to push themselves there and then the aha moment kind of comes? Does that make sense or no?
So a little bit. I think it's very similar. The methodology that I use is very much what does this person I'm working with want to create in the world. If it's their own possibility is kind of the key word. It's like if they see something for themselves that's really powerful, I don't have to manufacture very much for them because
Gotcha.
they're like, I really want like the super smart lawyer who doesn't have deep connections. They're like, oh, if I had connections, like there'd be peace, there'd be love, there'd be all these things that I don't have access to, and I really want that. And so as we work towards creating that thing tangibly in the world, which involves like going out and taking action to build relationships, inevitably the patterns that are in the way will come up and just be the thing that we have to deal with. So it's like,
That makes sense.
I don't have to manufacture them. It's kind of like along the journey they show up, if
Yeah,
that makes sense.
that does
Yeah.
make sense. Yeah. So a lot of people chase self improvement. I mean, I was going through the bookstore yesterday, and I mean, outside of nutrition books, it's like self help books. It's just everywhere. And I'm also a big believer in integration. You've trained with me, and anyone who's trained with me knows that I love to take the whole and then take the parts and integrate the parts so that the whole becomes a lot better. So, how do you help someone become whole instead of just better?
Mm. Yeah, so I leave that up to them and their choice. It tends to be if like what I'm saying is vibing with them enough for them to come work with me, that's something they're kind of looking for already. But if someone wanted to like chase something specifically and leave the other stuff behind, we could make space for that. I think eventually they would find like the burnout would show itself and we'd kind of get to whatever's underneath there. Um, but I try not to dictate the path for my clients because it's stronger if it's kind of on their agenda and their possibility. That really gives them the fire to like continue on through everything to really make a big change.
That makes sense. One of the best definitions I heard was from Martin Rooney, an amazing strength and conditioning coach for a lot of MMA fighters. He said that a coach, by definition, is a vehicle to get a person from point A to point B when they can't do it themselves. And that really helped me understand my role a little bit better. That my goal is not to do it better than them. My goal is not to show them or teach them how to be me. My goal is to somehow give them the tools and the resources to get to where they're trying to go when they're unable to actually do it on their own. So you're right. People who are seeking you out, they already know that they need some kind of guidance, but you not dictating what they do, but saying, hey, let's find out what you want to do and see if I'm actually able to get you there. That makes sense to me.
Yeah, that's something I really just for anyone who's listening, I work with Jay on a weekly basis, a couple times a week we come and work out, and that's one of the things that I really appreciate about you is you're always diving in to see what I want to create. And that's super enrolling. It's like when I come in here, I know I have your support, but I'm getting this is my like canvas. I get to come here and create my body how I want and show up how I want. So I love that you bring that.
I appreciate that, man.
Mm.
Yeah. We're very similar in many ways. So, so whenever I coach movement or seek to improve it, I do a lot with the central nervous system. In your knowledge and your studies up to speed, what role does the central nervous system or the nervous system play when you're trying to rewire some of these patterns?
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's sort of like I think the one of the secrets of transformation that honestly I don't have a full understanding of it. I can tell you how it works because I've experienced it,
Mhm.
but one of my goals is to kind of get into the science of it and the physiology eventually. But basically, that's the piece that takes it from the mind to the body. Like the goal of transformation is we don't want someone just to understand something better. At least in the type of work that I do, we want it to be integrated within their system so it's automatic for them moving forward. And so the steps from that are like understanding first, then taking it on in the real world, like practice, 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 and just changing how you're showing up, which then shifts something deep within the nervous system. It might be like changing brain patterns or somewhere in the nervous system, but there's a moment where you actually physically shift how you're showing up, and that new thing becomes the default. And it's a pretty wild feeling. Like when it's happened to me before, I feel really clumsy. I almost like a toddler, like banging around into walls. Just like for a couple days, I'll feel really like out of it, and then my body sort of like gets itself back together, and then I'm just showing up that new way, which
Yeah,
is
it is amazing,
super
right?
strange.
Laying down those neural pathways. Yeah, and
Yeah.
what's really amazing about that is the neuroplasticity aspect of it, where we didn't even start understanding the depths of this until like the last few decades, to where we're like, hold on, like your brain can really morph and shift and changes, and you can increase your synaptic connections, and all of a sudden, the person who was told that they were dumb or unable or whatever can be with the
Mm,
right type of training.
yeah.
And anything that causes you to use a lot of movements or a lot of deep diving into your thinking, sort of, I think, blows off dust off of neural maps, and then you come back alive. You're like, Oh, I did love to do that. I did love to skip when I was a kid. I did love to, roll around and hang from bars. Wow, I can do that. So it's
Mm,
like you're right. You're dusting off webs of saying, look, you can do this. This is built in who you are. We just need to sort of draw it out instead of
yeah.
force it, because you can't force it.
Totally. Do you mind sharing a little bit about how you've seen that stuff play out in your training? Just pretty
Yeah,
interested.
absolutely. So I'll take it back just a little bit. I used to tell myself that I just was terrible at math. I just suck at math. My wife is great and I suck at math. Da da da. So my first college course of math, man, I was just beating my head against the walls. Like I don't understand. This is not applicable. Da 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 da. Well, I quickly realized that was the problem. Like the problem was I was feeding myself this information, and my body sort of having the servo mechanism was just it was carrying out what I was feeding it, which was I can't.
Yeah.
So I take skills, whether martial arts and Muay Thai. I remember going into to do Muay Thai for the first time, dude. I was like, dude, like this is crazy. There's like 8 different weapons coming at me right now, knees and elbows, and I'm like I'm overwhelmed, but I'm gonna figure this out because I have to be okay with sucking. And I think that's just having this beginner's mindset and a student mindset, no matter how much I learn, has sort of kept me going to where I'm asking myself, what's next? Instead of just assuming I've arrived.
Yeah.
I don't arrive. I don't want to ever feel like I've arrived.
Beautiful. So it's like there's no limitation for what you can shift, and you just and you're open to that everywhere you go.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's beautiful.
realistically too, though, right?
Mm,
So setting those goals that align with what I believe are true capabilities, and sometimes it's me being real with myself and saying, Jay, like you're 39, you're 5'10", you could never have been an elite NBA player. Not, I mean, could you have? Possibly. There's a couple of them, but in other words, the chances of those are just extremely slim and non-existent now. But what is capable of being achieved now? And then which of those do I want to do?
yeah.
That's sort of where I'm at now. I'm always asking, like, what is next? I was just asking myself, like, okay, I'm 7 months into Muay Thai. I'm 6 years into Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, 4 years into boxing. What else can I do? And then I just came up with the idea that I'm just going to keep getting good at what I'm doing now because I still have so much to learn.
Mm, beautiful. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you for asking.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question. So, have you found that unresolved trauma can present itself as discipline or drive, like with high performers?
Yeah, totally. Um, I would use the word trauma can mean different things to different people, but I noticed that type of stuff is patternized and it can sort of feed on itself. Um, yeah, like if we just even go back to the person who's trying to be the smartest in the room, it's like everything relies on that. If they're the straight caricature of it, nobody's like exactly just that thing. But if that's a lot of what they do is they're just proving, it kind of becomes all or nothing. It's like I can't let this slip because my entire identity is built on this thing. And so there's a lot of significance around that. And then on the other side, a lot of fear of like what could go wrong if I was found out to be dumb or something like that.
Hmm.
Which that'll really drive with a lot of power
Yeah,
if all that's on the line.
that's true. That's true. If they find me out, I lose everything.
Hmm.
Yeah, interesting. So, mobility and like breath work, I found that a lot of people who are harboring a lot of emotional distress, it tends to carry out in how they breathe. Very shallow, very quick breathing, or poor mobility. You see the body tense up tremendously, right? It's sort of like an anti-lock brake system on the body. Have you seen anything like that play itself out in the transformative side of it all, like with those patterns that you're talking about? Like, what are some of the common patterns that may arise from emotional distress?
I I would maybe flip it on its head and say that the emotional distress is probably coming from something that they can't be with. There's like there's some fear that's sort of driving the emotional distress. Usually it's a fear about something about ourselves, like a perception that we have. Um, like, say there was someone who was super, super smart and they kept getting proven that they were dumb. Like, they were just in a class or something where the teacher just like kept calling them stupid or something like that. They know somewhere deep down that they're smart, and yet they're receiving this input over and over again, which doesn't really like it doesn't vibrate with them because it's not true. but they don't really have a way out of it. That type of thing will cause a lot of it. I mean, there's a ton of reasons emotional distress can come around, but I would assert that a lot of it shows up due to fear about who we are and like how we're showing up in the world.
Yeah. So one of the pinnacle moments in my life, I was probably about 20 years old, and I was at the lowest of low. And my mom looked at me and she told me, "You're just like your father." And if anyone sat down with me for any length of time, my first name is Matthew. My middle name is Jason. I go by Jay. I don't go by Matthew because of how much I've just disliked that man as a human being. Yeah. So that was the moment that I realized I have officially hit the lowest I've ever hit in my life. And I did make a drastic attempt to try to change, but I didn't know how to change. But that did spur something up to change. Yeah. Does that make sense? Yeah. So it's funny you said that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Some of my biggest decisions in my life have been reaching some sort of, talk about rock bottom, like that's that kind of thing. When I first got into coaching, I was laid off / fired. Like if I'm honest about it, it was pretty much a firing, and it was kind of like it was probably deserved. But at the time, man, that challenged everything that I held about myself. Like I was someone who was a winner. I was good. I didn't fail at things. I just got better. And when they let me go, it just rattled around in me forever. However, whenever something like that happens, then the door opens. It's like, oh, I have somewhere else to go because this isn't an option anymore.
That is true. It's almost like you're forcefully pushed out.
Yeah.
I love that. Every open door, every shut door, I think are blessings that we just have to be able to see that for sure. So in the pursuit of health or improving health, what are some of the mindset patterns that you see that can keep people from progressing from health? Because you mentioned fear earlier, sort of, I don't want to be found out, my business or my ego, whatever. When it comes to health in general, what are some of those patterns you think kind of keeps people on this yo-yo type of approach to optimizing it?
Yeah, I could see fear keeping people out where it's like, I can't do this, I'm not good enough, this isn't my identity. There's probably a bunch of different ways people could hold it to whether or not they're going to step into it. I guess I'll talk about myself because maybe that's like my easiest way to approach it. For me, I had never touched a gym until maybe I was like 28 or so. Like I played sports my whole life. I was active, but I never got into the gym. And basically what happened to me, I think, is there was a possibility opened up for me that wasn't there before, which was something like, hey, I'm getting a little bit more injury prone. I've also heard a bunch that as you move into your 30s, you start to lose muscle mass. Mm-hmm. Like you either maintain or it goes away, and you can kind of build back up, but there's strength. I mean, I don't have to explain this to you, but
no, you're good. Go ahead.
Yeah, there's a lot of power behind keeping the maintenance around that and not having to rebuild. And that possibility for me, even though it was maybe like a little bit of it from a negative place, like I don't want to be super weak and frail. It was also like, hey, I want to be strong and play sports into my 40s and kind of move forward. And so once that possibility was unlocked for me, that sort of shifted then my identity around the thing. It's like, oh, I'm totally willing to go in there because there's a lot at stake and a lot of what I want to create is around here. But I was able to shift it deep there. So it was like, I didn't have to convince myself to do it or get into the habit or anything like that. It was kind of like I was just ready to take it on and nothing was going to stop me.
Gotcha. So you've seen the benefits that reach far bigger than just something maybe shallow or something that, or some benefits that arise above the suffering that you may have to go through for now, right? Adding more muscle mass, adding more strength, being healthier, right? Controlling insulin, whatever the case may be. All of these things say, okay, I have something to work towards that may make the moment suck a little less. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I just went on a rant before we started the podcast in my car, and the rant was pick your suck. This idea that, oh man, working out sucks and eating healthy sucks. And I'm like, yeah, but so does not being able to function. And so does not being able to go on vacations with your family because you're too decrepit. And so does having metabolic disease. That sucks. So I think you have to pick your suck, the biggest suck for your buck. Is what I called it.
No, that's beautiful. I've always thought of it something like you can choose the terms of the suck if they're on your terms, but if you're just kind of leaving it off and not addressing it, then the suck's going to come back and punch you in the stomach. or whatever it is.
Exactly. No, yeah, for sure. So a couple more questions for you. So and this one is kind of relating to some of like out of all of the friends that I grew up with, like I am the one who made it out, and out of my family, like I am the one who've made it out, and I'm grateful for it. I do not take it for granted. But what I realize is a lot of people who have attempted to do some changing along the way has sort of just tried to make a little bit better version of their old self.
Mm,
Does that make sense?
yeah, totally.
Can you elaborate just a little bit of what are your thoughts on that? Like,
Yeah. So a better version of the way you're already doing things is the same pattern. It's kind of like the pattern's just integrating itself more ferociously or whatever's happening. Um, you still usually end up in a pretty similar place. Like the degrees of emotion and things that you're experiencing might be a little bit different. Like the super brilliant lawyer could either turn themselves all the way up to 110 and really burn out, or they could turn it back off, or sorry, not turn it off. They could dial it back a lot. But either way, they're still kind of playing the same game. And so it's like you have to learn new ways of being in order to give yourself a different option, which it's not an easy journey. You have to have a real strong reason to choose something like that.
yeah, that's a real good point. I don't load dysfunction. You can't, and so if we have any exercise people listening to this, you understand what I'm saying. I think a lot of people make mistakes by going straight to loading dysfunction, and all you do is compound dysfunction when you try to add a lot of resistance to dysfunction. So cleaning up some of those movement patterns first, and then incrementally loading it in such a way that the body can adapt. So you have to almost shed off what you were doing, right? Like sort of remove the things, because that's what it started with. The company I kept, the music I listened to, the food that I ate, the way that I lived. I started
Gotcha.
changing those little things first,
Yeah.
learning how to sleep a little bit better, see myself in a different lens. And from there, I'm like, okay, I've stripped these things down. So now how do I build this, what is left? How do I build that back up? Because I got to get that stronger, but I have to start with a new me, and that new me took a long time to get there. I mean, it took 8 or 9 straight years of not having any type of criminal issues for me to get my record expunged completely, and that was a monumental moment to be able to, at the age of 30 or 29, completely get this record off you that was just chasing you around.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, so now I got this back. All right, so now let's look at, let's say, my blood panels. I'm like, okay, I have these issues, and it's the same issues my family was having. How can I make changes to take this away? Okay, I got these back down. Now let's play. And that's
Mm.
the sort of the approach I've taken for the last 10 years of now I'm able to play. And this is the stuff I should have been doing a long time ago, but better late to the party than never. So sort of just remodeling everything, and starting with a product and then building the product from the ground up.
Yeah. Can you like identify the moment, or like when did you like decide that you were gonna do this thing, like the turnaround or whatever happened? Because there must have been something
There
in there
was.
that.
For me, it was my faith. So I met the
Mm,
Lord Jesus. I became a Christian, and it was a very zealous conversion to where, for the first time ever in my life, I was told that the mistakes and the issues that I did leading up to that point did not define me, but on the contrary, it was taken care of. And that was the first time that I felt like I didn't have to carry all of those things that I did. Because no matter what, I felt guilty all the time, even though I had already paid my dues.
yeah.
I didn't feel like a man. I didn't feel like I was what I should have been or who I could have been. And that's sort of where I realized like I didn't have a father. So I was using these as reasons to not be able to be who I needed to be. But then I quickly, through the scriptures, I was like, okay, this is how I take care of my money. This is how I take care of my mind. This is how I take care of my neighbor. This is how I treat the poor. This is how I treat women. And all of a sudden, I was like, I got the roadmap to be able to be a better human being for not only myself but for everybody around me. And I mean, that changed my whole course of life to where marriage is now 9 years. We celebrated our ninth anniversary just last week, and together 12 years, and three beautiful, beautiful daughters, right? Like the man who never understood how to treat a woman now is blessed with three daughters and a beautiful wife, and a dog who is a female, right? Like, so it's just like sort of full circle to where I'm coming back around, and I'm like, yeah, this is what I'm supposed to do. So I also realized that everything I went through, it made me be able to serve other people. So while I may not have been able to enjoy a lot of fruit as a teenager or early in my 20s, now teens can get put under my wing and I can help them enjoy fruit. So even if my sufferings are for the benefit of somebody else, I'm like, I'm good with that. So that's
Mm.
why I constantly use my story.
That's so beautiful that the turnaround wasn't just for you. It was kind of like this vision of how you're going to impact the world and the
Yes.
people that you love.
Yes.
Man, that's powerful.
Yes, yes. And one more thing before we close out, I was one time I was probably about 17 or 18 years old, and I was inside of my car one night and I had nowhere to go. And I was calling, trying to call, and I wouldn't get no answers. I felt like all my bridges were burnt down. And that was one of the most loneliest nights I ever had in my life. Cried, 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 cried. Well, after my life turned around, I was just reminded that God was with me in that moment. And so the circumstances, I'm not alone. And I try not to be, I try to be that for other people, right? I try to be present for other people. Like, you're not alone. Hey, on this journey of health, you're not alone. On this journey of fitness, you're not alone. Like, I'm going to walk with you through here. So when you're mad, you get mad at me. And when you want to cry, just come into the session, shed some tears, and then let's get to work.
Mm,
So that's what I try to let my coaching be.
that's awesome.
I appreciate you, brother. One more thing. So if someone right now wants to rewire their pattern, they feel like they're just stuck or whatever. What is one question that you can leave them with tonight for them to think about?
Hmm. Yeah, it would probably be noticing. Well, here's the question, I guess. It's what would you love your life to look like? And when you ask that question and actually look, because it's easy to ask that question and sort of like put things into place like, oh, yeah, I can't actually have that. Yeah, but that thing, I can't have that in my life because like these are the rules here. If you ask that question and really look like, what would I love my life to look like? You can start to see past some of the walls that have kind of been placed there almost without your knowing, like things you just can't access for some reason. The super smart lawyer doesn't think he needs love, but maybe he wants it or something like that. So if you start looking around at like, what would you really love your life to look like? Then you can start to get an idea of like, oh, for some reason, I'm not allowed to have this thing. And so there might be something there to look at.
That's a real great question to leave them with. Sort of think outside yourself for 1 minute to see what the ideal looks like.
Yeah.
And then you can sort of cover that gap based on current state. Where are you now? Where would you like to be? And then use these tools along the way. And your coaching is a great example of how to get there, right? If someone wants to reach out to you or get some coaching from you, or even just to find out more about what you do, how do they contact you?
Yeah, so any of the social medias, name is Seth Drugatz, Drugatz. It's a unique name, so if you type that in, you'll find me somewhere.
Yeah, just put DRUG or DRU, sure to pop up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, all the
Nice.
usuals.
I appreciate you sitting with me, brother.
Yeah, this was awesome, Jay. Thank you.
See you next time.